Good morning, sixth graders. I hope everybody is doing great today. It's Wednesday, halfway to the weekend. So you've already done all these things. So we are going to go ahead and get started with our book talk today. Today, our book talk is right here. It's called Brown Girl Dreaming by Jacqueline Woodson. Jacqueline Woodson is an amazing author and poet. She's written a lot of amazing books and things like that. And Brown Girl Dreaming is a novel in verse. Okay, and we've talked about that, how it's kind of like a poem. Doesn't necessarily rhyme, but it's told like in a rhythmic pattern and things like that. But it also tells a story. So this book is actually like a memoir, which is like an autobiography of a certain time about her childhood and just about the dream she had as a child. It is so beautifully written. I think this is one of the first books, the first novels in verse that I read that really made me fall in love with novels in verse. Again, if you have a hard time getting into books or a hard time letting them keep your attention, try novels in verse. They go fast, so you feel kind of accomplished and things like that, and tell beautiful stories in fewer words. So I absolutely love that book. I highly recommend it. All right. So taking a look at our planner today, we've been pre-planning our personal narratives this week, and today you're going to do a plot diagram of your story. Okay. I know for me, I might prefer to do it on paper first. I really prefer paper over typing, especially when I'm like planning and making lists and stuff like that. So if I do kind of suggest you do it on paper first, but you do need to go into Otis and do it in there as your assignment. Okay. So your personal narrative, we're working on planning that again today. We're going to start writing like tomorrow. So now that you have completed the planning page, let's complete a plot diagram of your narrative. So your conflict, is your conflict internal? That means it's something that you have a problem you're wrestling with inside, maybe making a choice, maybe deciding between right and wrong. Or is it external? You're having a conflict with someone else or maybe with nature or something like that. So these are the things you need to think about. The exposition, those are the events that give the reader background information needed to understand your story. Okay, so this is what you're going to do to set the tone for your story, tell who it's about, what it's about, the time and place, things like that. Then rising action. This is usually the longest part of the story. Those are the major events that develop the plot and lead to the climax. And the climax is the event that is the turning point of your story, at which the conflict could be resolved in different ways. Falling action are the events that begin to conclude your story and lead to the ending. This might be where you are kind of putting in your reflection of your IRR, okay? And then your resolution will also be part of the reflection, and that's where the story concludes and reveals the theme or really the lesson too. So falling action and resolution are kind of intertwined. Okay, so here's what a plot diagram looks like, and you are going to do that in Otis. Like I said, I highly suggest doing it on paper first. And if we were in class together, you definitely would need to do that. All right, so Otis, fill out the plot diagram of your story, and then you will need this completed for tomorrow when we start working on our stories. So tomorrow you are going to need that finished so that you can start working on your story. And then take a break, get some work done right now before we head into social studies, or however you want to do that. All right, so we're going to be talking today about Sumer's civilization, what was life like in Sumer. And Sumer is one of the first cities in Mesopotamia. So Mesopotamia was a widespread area and with kind of like a country almost. And within Mesopotamia, there were cities. Okay, and Sumer is one of the first ones. So they are kind of like cities, but they are also called city-states because it was a political unit consisting of a city and its surrounding countryside. And back then, all the cities were pretty independent because they were far apart from each other, and the grounds around them were kind of treacherous and difficult to travel over land there. So here are here's a little video on the city-states achievements. It's about 4 minutes long.
The history and achievements of the Sumerians. To start today's podcast, let's quickly revisit the events that have led us to the emergence of civilization. If you recall, Mesopotamia began as a settlement for hunter-gatherer groups. Because of the region's fertile soil, farm settlements formed. These farm settlements eventually developed into villages due to the consistent food source that farming provided. And the last date we will add to our timeline is 3000 BC, when farm settlements evolved into cities. It's during this time that the world's first civilization develops, called Sumer. The Sumerian city-state. Originally, Sumer was made up of two parts: rural farmland, where they grew crops like wheat and barley, and a central city, where you would find a main temple, shops, and homes. This layout led to the formation of the city-state, meaning a political unit made up of a central city and all the countryside around it. Over time, many city-states developed in Sumer, and conflict would arise as leaders would try to expand their territories by gaining more farmland. Because of this, city-states built up strong armies and even constructed strong, thick walls around their cities for protection. Sumerian society. Religion played a huge role in the daily lives of Sumerians. While most people in the United States practice a religion where they worship one god, Sumerians worshipped many gods. This is called polytheism. They had an air god, a god of wisdom, a goddess of love and war, a sun god, and a moon god, just to name a few. These gods were responsible for the good things in life, like good harvests and wealth, as well as the bad things in life, like droughts, floods, and illness. But most importantly, the main goal in Sumerian life was to please the gods. The people who lived in Sumer were divided by rank or class. This system of social division is called a social hierarchy. Think of it like a ladder. The closer you are to the top of the ladder, the more wealthy, powerful, and important you are. But as you move down the ladder, you become less wealthy, powerful, and important. In Sumer, kings were at the top of the hierarchy, followed by priests, then craftspeople, merchants and traders, then farmers and laborers, and at the bottom, you had slaves. Sumerian achievements. Sumerians had many accomplishments that continue to impact our lives today. They were the first people to build wheeled vehicles such as carts. Sumerians invented the plow, which greatly increased agricultural production. And they developed a math system based on the number 60, dividing a circle into 360 degrees and a year into 12 months, measurements that we still use today. So the next time you see LeBron James throw down a 360, LeBron with a takeaway by himself. Oh yeah. You can see that coming. Or 12-year-old skateboarder Tom Shar pull off a 1080. Try it again, frontside 180. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh! 1080! It's the only second one. You have the Sumerians to thank. Sumerians also built large, pyramid-shaped temples called ziggurats. And some of them have walls that are still standing today. Cylinder seals, the Sumerians' greatest artistic achievement, were made as a way of labeling possessions and telling stories. And most importantly, Sumerians developed cuneiform, the world's first system of writing. Using cuneiform, scribes, or writers, kept government records, wrote down trade activities, and composed poems about gods and epics about heroes. One such poem is the Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's greatest and oldest works of literature. Thank you for watching. The history and achievements of the Sumerians.
Sorry. All right. So that is the Sumerians. That's interesting stuff. So Here are some of the important things. So there's the ziggurat, which is a rectangular temple or terraced mound built by the ancient Assyrians and Babylonians. Okay. The main reason ancient Mesopotamians built ziggurats has its roots in religious beliefs. They built them to make the temples closer to the heavens and therefore closer to the gods. This is tied to the belief that gods appeared on earth at the highest point in the land. Okay, so they wanted to make them big and tall to welcome in the gods. Polytheism is the worship of many gods. Okay, and so we're now going to watch this video on Mesopotamian religion.
This is the religion of Mesopotamia. The overall glance was that the religious beliefs are all understood through the temple buildings, tombs, pictures of gods and goddesses, and religious writings. Altogether, the people seen the creation of the world tying into religion through many myths. They all believed that individual gods protected them, and each person had their own personal gods, and temples were built to practice their religion. They had four main creator gods that were called An, Enlil, Nin, Kershag, and Anik. They were all very important to them because it related to help mankind, and they made sure they treated them properly because they believed they provided them with everything. The religion was all known to be polytheistic, which is the belief in more than one god. They had thousands of gods that different people and different tribes believed in, and they were responsible for everything. The questions such as who we are, where do we come from, why are we here, are all answered by them. Human beings were created so these strong leaders have servants. The four tribes were called the Akkadians, Babylonians, Assyrians, Sumerians, and the main focus of all these four are going to be explained now. The Akkadians was a dominant religion. Usually falling behind was the Sumerian religion. Even though the Mesopotamian religion altogether focused on the beliefs in their god, the Akkadians focused on a sun god called Shamash. The reason why he would be considered as being the most important was because his cults were scattered all over the land, and this took control of their religion. The Babylonians had noticed that all other tribes around them had many of the same gods that they believed in as well. The amount of gods that the other tribes followed made the Babylonians have a great amount of gods as well, but they would only keep very few that were very important to them that they worshipped. The Assyrians were known to have practiced two religions but also have gods as well. The two religions they were practiced were Christianity and Assyrianism. And the Assyrianism was the first religion of the Assyrians. They were the first tribe to accept Christianity. The Sumerians worshipped the god called An as their primary god, which was equivalent to heaven. Sumerians believed that the universe consisted of a flat disk that enclosed by a tin dome. Religion was the main principle of the city-states. Each city had its own temples that was used to practice their religion, and the Sumerians devoted much of their time into ensuring their favor with gods, with worship, prayer, and sacrifice. All these tribes are very similar when it comes to religion from researching. Each tribe had devoted religion as being extremely important, and it was the way to live. This is how they all believed that they would live day to day, because much of the worshiping, prayer, and sacrifice was shown throughout all four. All of them had their own gods, which was the main focus, and they believed they had to serve and provide the gods with food, clothing, shelter, and offer them anything they wanted in order to live and not be a failure.
All right. Okay. So that was made by a student, so you could make something like that too. All right, so looking on, but I know that's not the kind of YouTube star most of you guys want to be. Okay, we're going to talk about social levels a little bit and the social structure of Mesopotamia. So we're going to talk about two more things there. Social hierarchy is the division of society by ranks or class, and we talked a little bit about that before, okay? And while we still kind of have this in America, like there's the middle class, there's people who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, there's the like people who are really rich, but usually it just pretty much has to do with money. But back then, like everything had to do with your social level. Like you weren't even allowed to have like a relationship with somebody in a different social level than you. So that's kind of interesting and sad. And you were usually whatever social level you were born into, that's where you stayed. It was really hard to switch levels.
Here's my house. My family, they care for the gods and make sure they're happy.
What? Not sure what just happened there.
Here's my house. My family lives in one of the 2-story houses close to the ziggurat. That's because my dad works for the king. My mom runs the house. Our slaves do the actual work, but my mom supervises them. They prepare meals, keep the house clean, and do other household chores. Mother also weaves beautiful cloth to make clothing. Her cloth is made of fine wool from our own sheep. She sells a lot of it to the traders' caravans. My younger sisters help my mom spin yarn and weave cloth. But I begged my dad to send me to tablet school. I'm learning to write so I can be a scribe. It's a really important job. There are a lot of other jobs in Sumer, like being a potter or a fisherman. Some people grind grain into flour and brew beer. Some are traders, and some just play music. Hey, that wouldn't be so bad. But it would be bad to be a slave. Some slaves were captured in war, and others became slaves because they owed money. They have to work for 3 years, often in the grain fields, and then they are set free. Besides the king and his family, the people with the highest positions are the priests. They care for the gods and make sure they're happy.
Okay. All right, so that's that. And then we're going to watch one more video talking about the social structure. That kind of gave you an idea of what day-to-day life was like for a kid in the social structure. But that was a kid of the right here, the officials, scribes, and minor priests. So they were a little bit higher up on the hierarchy.
Writing's not that easy, but Grammarly can help. This sentence is grammatically correct.
All right, here we go. Last one for today.
Hi there. Civilization is defined as an advanced state of human society in which a high level of culture, science, industry, and government has been reached. Civilizations have come and gone. If you're watching this, you're probably living in a civilization right now. Hopefully, you won't be around to watch yours collapse. Sumer is considered one of the first civilizations in Mesopotamia. Some consider it the first civilization in history. But was it really a civilization? Is there evidence that suggests that Sumer was a civilization? Who's to say what a civilization is? Many historians agree that civilizations have certain characteristics. These historians agree to be considered a civilization, there must be some sort of stable food supply, a social structure, a system of government, a religious system, a highly developed culture, advances in technology, and a developed written language. Did Sumer have these characteristics? Let's look at the evidence. Civilizations need food to thrive. Is there evidence that suggests Sumer had a stable food supply? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence of a plow, which is a tool used in agriculture to prepare the soil for planting. Archaeologists have also found written evidence of barley. So yes, Sumer had a stable food supply. Civilizations have a complex organization of its people. People in a civilization have different jobs and social levels. Is there evidence that Sumer had a complex social structure? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence of an artisan class and an upper class. Archaeologists have discovered that the houses of Sumer were organized based on class. The people with the largest and most luxurious homes were near the center, while the common classes lived near the outskirts of the city. So yeah, Sumer had a social structure. Civilizations have a system of government in order to direct people's behavior. Is there evidence that Sumer had a government? Why, yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence that Sumerian city-states were ruled by kings, and these kings enforced the laws and collected taxes. Archaeologists have also discovered evidence of a Sumerian army to help protect the city, so Sumer had a government. All civilizations have a religious system that includes a set of beliefs and a form of worship. Is there evidence that Sumer had a religious system? Yes, there was. Archaeologists believe that religious beliefs influence every part of daily life. Archaeologists have also uncovered countless statues that showed their religious beliefs, so Sumer had a religious system. All civilizations have a highly developed culture, including the arts. Is there evidence that Sumer had a highly developed culture? Yes, there was. Archaeologists have found evidence that Sumer had many different kinds of artisans who created weapons, cups, jewelry, and much more. Archaeologists have also discovered music was a big part of Sumerian culture, so Sumer had a highly developed culture. All civilizations create new forms of technology. They invent new things. Is there evidence that Sumer had technological advancements? Yes, there were. Archaeologists credit the Sumerians with the invention of the wheel. Sumerians also made great technological advancements to their buildings by developing an arch. So Sumer did have technology. Finally, all civilizations have a highly developed written language. Is there evidence of a written language in Sumer? Nope. Just kidding. Of course there is. Archaeologists have found plenty of evidence of a written language that uses wedge-shaped characters called cuneiform. The earliest examples of cuneiform show that it was used to record information about trades Sumerians made with each other. So yes, Sumer had a highly developed written language. There you have it. Sumer exhibited all the characteristics of civilization. They had a stable food supply, a social structure, a government, a religious system, a developed culture, technology, and a written language. Unfortunately for the Sumerians, their civilization did not last forever. They collapsed in around 2000 BCE. Well, that's all for now. Until next time, here are some sources. And some photo credits. And some more photo credits.
Okay.